What up, guys? Danya Goodman here. I want to get into some of these myths that I learned to debunk over the years about mixing and whatnot. Um, the first myth about mixing is number one, anything can be fixed in the mix. That's totally wrong. And back in the day, um, it wasn't necessarily always wrong, but back in the day, um, it was easy to say that because there were no DAWs, there was no digital audio workstation, there was no Pro Tools, everything went to tape. And so you made sure that you recorded everything as tightly and as cleanly as possible. So the proper terminology would have been or would be um, anything can be fixed in the mix that is recorded correctly and that is fixable in the mix. Secondly, um, I want to point out you can't make magic happen in the mix um, that is not already in the song. And a lot of people will try to tell you different, but the truth is, you can't make magic happen that did not happen in the recording process. Okay. A lot of people will try to tell you, you just do this and do that. And then in the mix, you can, nah, man, if the song ain't magic, the mix can only do so much. The mix will just be great and the song will just be subpar. So a great mix is only as great as the song. Okay. Understand that when you're mixing, you're making the song work, not necessarily showcasing your mixing skills or trying to mix things out. Next thing, treat EQ and compression with respect. A lot of us live and die by EQ and compression, which makes sense. But don't expect EQ and compression to fix a bad recording. Okay. A lot of people record poorly and then they want to EQ it out. If your kick drum mic was cheap, let's say it was, $49 or $99, you're going to be able to hear that versus a $150, $200 kick drum mic. Okay. Now, what I will say, and I'm going to get into some tips and tricks here to show you little things that you can do to help get yourself to a better mix. But what I will say now is that everyone can't afford the high end or even the medium end. Some of us have to stick with low end until we can afford better. There are ways around it. Okay. A lot of cheap drum microphones tend to be very honky and be very trunky and sound very hollow. And you end up having to EQ that out. And then what's worse is you EQ that out, and then along with EQing that out, the life of your drums or the life of your track gets EQ'd out as well. Okay. And so sometimes that can be difficult to deal with. Okay. What you want to do is you want to when your kick drum is too honky or your snare is too it has a honk in it, it has some hollow things happening. What you want to do is you want to duplicate that track, double that track, be it kick, snare, tom, duplicate that track, have one track untouched and the other track EQ and process the mess out of it, and then you're able to blend the two. Okay. That you saw me do that in some of the other videos with my snare. I just duplicated the snare, kept one the same, and then the second one I processed the crap out of it. Okay. When in doubt with any track, do that. Okay. When in doubt with any track, keep one natural, duplicate it, and then process the mess out of the second one. You're able to blend the two. So if you need more body in a track, sometimes You want more body in a track without taking away the natural nuances and whatnot. Duplicate it, process it, give it the body and the clarity and the depth and all of that, and then split the difference between the two tracks. It'll help your track sit better in the mix. Do not over compress. And I'm learning that now. Like sometimes compression feels good and it sounds good, and then you hear it later, it just sounds like everything is smushed together, and compression can even thin some things out. As much as compression is used to thicken it and make it big, it can thin some things out, okay? Because remember, compression is designed to squash the signal, all right? So make sure you treat your compression with respect, okay? Look at some of the earlier videos, you can see kind of what I was doing with that compression. Also, keep in mind that mixing is subjective. It is very subjective. Some people will say, well, you don't need to crowd a lot of plugins and crank it up to 35 to get a good sound. And other people say, hey man, if it sounds good, do it. You know, crank it up. Who cares? There's no rules. And my style, I've learned to split the difference between the two. Okay, I've learned to split the difference between the two. Take care of your ears, especially if you are producing and mixing a song. Take a break. Take a break. Don't spend all day producing and then try to mix the same day. You're not gonna get a good mix, guaranteed. Take a break, or the same, or mix right after production. Take a break, a nice little long break. Give your ears a rest. Listen to something else. Either way, if you have questions, feel free, hit the box, and I'll get right back at you with the best answer that I have. The key to getting a great mix is first getting a great recording. Always remember that. If the recording sucks, you make it harder on the mixing end, okay?